you're preaching to the choir here in extolling the virtues of economics as a discipline, because that's what I have always thought as well. But we are not. There are other reactions to economics as a discipline, some much less welcoming and friendly. They call people who extol the virtues of markets, who talk about how prices are a remarkable vehicle for allocating resources and balancing the relative efficiencies of different alternative activities, who extol the virtue of property incentives and the seeking of profit. They call such people neoliberals, Steve.
Yeah, at best. There's some academics like even less than that. But I think there's no question about it. The one thing that makes economists pretty much alike, if you tell me you've had an introductory course in economics, I know you've learned some things. If it's an introductory course in politics or political science, I don't know what you've taken. Some people will start with the founding fathers and spend half the semester on the Constitution. Others will be pretty much the last 30 years, and mainly public opinion and interest groups. So you don't know what they've got. In economics, you know what someone learned. If you want to build on that, you can do it. And as for what people don't like about it, it's partly they have so much influence. Why is there a council of economic advisors and not a council of sociological advisors? Why are you guys so good? And not only that, economists think they're so good. They think they're better than the other disciplines. And on the whole, as I've said, I think they are on the whole. I wouldn't want to write a book on any of the others. They'd be all over the place. I wouldn't know how to organize it. But economics, as you say, let me just say a word about markets. Because people usually want to talk about markets in a favorable way. They think they're conservative. Therefore, I want to begin by saying, Paul Krugman has a text. Now, he's well left of most economists, and many of your listeners know of him. He writes regularly for the New York Times. In his textbook, he says, markets are a remarkable way to bring different people and different products together via prices. And he goes on to say, it's pretty amazing the way they work. So lots of time, my critics, my friends in political science will say, those economists, they think markets are a religion. And I therefore quote them, remarkable, Krugman, amazing. Well, it's not quite a religion, they'd say, but that's pretty good if you think they're that good. And most economists think they are, whether they're liberal or conservative. Another example would be Joseph Stiglitz, who wrote an article. He agrees with a lot of things that Bernie Sanders agrees with. But he wrote an op-ed, and then in a short op-ed, he said, I'm not a socialist. I think that all the successful economies use private property and markets. Wow. Now, how many people who are left of center know that economists who agree with them in a lot of public policy think that well of markets? So I want to begin by trying to convince people that whatever their politics are, I think they should know more about markets before they say they don't like them.
I think once you've seen this insight that when people respond to a common set of prices and make their own decisions about how to balance their costs and benefits given those prices, once you've seen the insight that when they do that, they're also, in effect, coordinating their activities with one another. Yeah. They're balancing their costs and benefits against themselves, not only against the prices. Yeah. And you can do that simply through the price system. You don't have to go door to door, collect all the individual information, give all the instructions. I mean, let's be concrete. Suppose you want to reduce emissions of environmental pollutants. There are 100 million different sources of potential emissions. Each one has its own story to tell about what the costs are of altering its activities. You want to somehow reduce emissions, but you want to do it in a way that is efficient. Prices allow that to happen in a truly stunning way. And I think when you've seen and appreciated that insight, it's pretty hard to forget.
Yeah, I think it is. And let me, I don't know whether you got a chance to look at talk about sawdust. But, I begin by saying, markets, what do you do with markets? And if you were an administrator, how would you do it? who would get all the iron, who would get the steel. And then I simply declare what Chairman Mao said in China. He said, I got a lot of steel, but I forgot it doesn't travel by itself. I don't have enough transportation. In a market system, the prices would adjust, and when the steel started to accumulate, someone would get the idea to transport it where it belongs. Anyway, but I say at the beginning, instead of talking about steel, so I'm going to talk about sawdust. And then the sawdust, who cares? Is there even a market for it? And then I go through what an economist found when he went to Vermont in the summer, and he was asked a dairy farmer, why is milk so expensive these days? It's twice as much as last summer. And he said, all my inputs are going up. The price of milk has doubled. And the price of sawdust has doubled. And the economist said, what's sawdust have to do with dairy farmer? He said, we use it all the time. Our cows produce much more milk when they're comfortable lying down, and they love sawdust. So this administrator is probably shocked right from the start. Well, I didn't know that. So I'll tell you what, we'll cut the price of milk in schools. We'll make it more because that's important. The kids got to get those vitamins, and we'll give them not just last year's allocation, but something more. And then the administrator is going to hear from the people in the building industry, because they're going to say, we know our costs are going up, and as you say, homeless is a big problem. And our costs are going to go up if we don't get as much sawdust as we used to have. And people say, what's sawdust have to do with building? Well, it turns out the particle boards, which are cheaper than lumber and therefore used a lot in low-income housing, have a lot of sawdust in them. So I didn't mean to increase low-income housing by giving more milk to the school kids, but now you tell me that's what I've done. Yeah, that's what you've done. And then, of course, the housewives who use it for mulch are going to start complaining, well, who said these are more important than I am? And you keep looking at it, and they're using charcoal briquettes, sawdust, and using all kinds of things you wouldn't think. They're even used in dashboards as a filler. And I think that before he gets to iron and steel, this administrator is going to throw up his hands. I didn't know all this. What do you want me to do? What the economists want you to do is be a little more modest and start with markets. You may need to adjust them, but realize there's a lot going on. If you change one thing, like the amount of milk to schools, you're going to change all these other things, the prices of all these other things. You ought to think about whether you really want to do that or not.